Give it another few minutes. We'll get started. Okay, we'll give it about another 2 to 3 minutes and we'll get going. Okay, give it about another minute and we'll get started.
It's 2 o'clock.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to the Wingman, how to deal with the changing world of cyber insurance in this current COVID crisis that we're facing. I'm Brad Schrum. I am the Chief Underwriting Officer and Growth Officer for Wingman. And I'm joined by my partner, Ellie Feldman, who is our Managing Director. Hello, Ellie.
Hi, Brad.
So what we'd like to do here won't take but 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and feel free to ask any questions that you have. I think there's a button, correct, Ellie, that folks can ask questions?
Absolutely. You've got two choices. There's a Q&A area and a chat area. You can submit your questions to either, and we'll try to get as many of them answered as possible. So if you have any questions or you'd like to discuss anything, please put it there first.
Great, thanks, Ellie. We are recording this, so after the presentation, we will send it out so you could take.
Oh, Brad, I think we lost your audio. Can you hear me?
Are you there?
Yeah,
Oh.
you're back. All right.
Okay.
Again.
So let's get started, Ellie, if you like. I'll let you get going.
So we wanted today to talk about a couple of key points. The first one being with everybody working from home now for most of them, the very first time, we want to talk about what are the risks to businesses from a cyber perspective with employees working from home. We're going to want to cover what tips and tricks you can give them and your own employees to stay safer. And then finally, we're going to talk about what a cyber policy does and does not respond to with regards to these employees and the new work from home climate. So to kick us off, I just want to talk a little bit about what the new risk is. And there was a great quote that we found that said, you know, the problem is that everybody who had been working in an office is now not. And while some people, ironically enough, like myself, who have been working from home for a very long time, know what to do, the added pressure of having all of these new processes and requirements for people who are working from home is a real stress factor. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about what the risks are, and we can dive right in.
Great, Al. let's go.
Okay, so one of the biggest exposures we have right now is the fact that, quite frankly, hackers are really taking advantage of the uncertainty of employees working from home. We've seen accelerated attacks across the board, from denial of service attacks, or what you might see as DDoS attacks, and that's where they bombard your system so that nobody else can access it, to a much heightened phishing campaign with regards to both ransomware and social engineering. So because of that, everybody's got to be very vigilant. The second issue we're facing is that employees, they tend to be relaxed is the nice way to put it. Lackadaisical might be another. They don't take the same care working from home necessarily than they would at the office. And that's just the way of the world. We all do it. And so we've got to learn to adjust from that. One of the things that you can control when everybody's working in the office is quite frankly permissions. You can block certain websites. You can prevent certain applications on work computers. You don't have that same control anymore if somebody's not using a work-owned and operated laptop at home. And so they have just a significantly lower privacy control when people are working from home.
Great, Ellie. Here's the next one.
Yeah, this is part and parcel with the previous one. When employees are using their own computers, there are a litany of risks, and we're going to dig into some of those in a little, just by the nature of them not being owned by their office. And then this is another one. So if you're working on your work laptop, there are usually an IT department that's making sure that you're patching security things, and they're doing things to your laptop and making sure you're secure that you probably aren't even aware of. When you're using a work from home device, that is not necessarily the case. It is up to the person who owns that device to make sure that they're running virus scans, that they're not clicking on malicious things, that they're updating all of their software as soon as it becomes available, and that they're working on a secure Wi-Fi network. And without the control of any of those things, there are lots of holes for bad actors to get in. And then finally, a lot of offices, because this came about so quickly, don't have any rules, guidelines, or best practices for their employees in place. They're figuring it out as they go along, and they haven't figured out how to handle oversight of those rules and best practices yet. And so we don't want this to last so long that that's an issue, but it's definitely leaving a number of businesses vulnerable.
Great, Ellie. And last but not least.
Oh yeah, IT staff are losing it right now. It is really difficult in the best of times to get responsive IT to help if you think there's an issue. With so many people trying to switch to work from home from no work from home process at all, IT staffs, quite frankly, are incredibly overwhelmed. So go easy on them, and we'll try to give you the tips that we can to help you prevent needing them.
Great. Let's move on to some additional data points, Ellie.
So I just want to do a quick overview, and you can sort of pop through some of these.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of data. You've seen a lot of this before. These are data points from before the crisis. These numbers are going to be higher. 94% of malware is delivered via email. I mean, you can't get away from that. It's the way of the world. People click on emails every day, not thinking about who is sending them and what might be included. Phishing attacks are the cause of 80% of reported breaches. Those are not going away anytime soon. And by the sheer nature of the fact that we're seeing more and more of them, that number is going to rise. The losses that are due to phishing attacks are also going to increase. And there's just not much we can do about that, unfortunately, except for stay as vigilant as possible. 60% of breaches are involve vulnerabilities for which a patch could be applied. This circles back to the point we were just making. Without having all of the data that you need, all of the security controls and processes in place for patches to be applied, makes it very difficult. And so and you can see there's more and more data to go around. There's a ton of data and statistics on this stuff. And then of course, the big guy, data breaches cost businesses everything, 3.92 million every year. And that number's not going down either. And finally, and we love to use this data point because it scares the bejesus out of everybody, a ransomware attack occurs on a business every 14 seconds. By 2022, they expect that to be every 11 seconds. And since we're seeing an uptick in ransomware attacks because of the COVID crisis, we don't see that number going down anytime soon.
Great, Ellie, thanks. So what can you do to protect yourself and your business?
So of course we've scared you, and now we want to make you feel a little bit better. There are some basic things that every employee can do to be better for their business during this time. And number one is use a password manager. There are many great cheap or free ones out there like LastPass that we highly recommend, that forces employees to not use the same password for all of their sites, to keep track of all of the different logins that they have to their computer, etc. It's a really important thing. Make sure employees are not loaning devices they're using for work to their children or spouses. An employee might know better than to go to bad sites or click on bad things. You don't have that same control with children or spouses. I know it's really hard right now because you need all hands on deck, but this is a big one that could really help a lot. This is a big one for not just now, but always. Do not download apps on anything from an untrusted source. So if you're using a Mac, use the Apple Mac Store. If you're on a Dell, make sure you're using things that are done by your service provider and not by some third party.
Great, Ellie, thanks.
And this is probably the single thing that could save your business the most. It is our natural inclination when we do something wrong to try to fix it ourselves or not do much about it. And that is the wrong tack to take when it comes to cybersecurity. If you see an email that doesn't look right, if you click on a download that doesn't seem right, or a website that doesn't seem right, make sure that there is a point person in your business for people to report that to, and make sure they know that the most important thing is for them to report it immediately, even if they're not sure if it's anything of substance. It can prevent much wider spread issues from happening if you can just run an immediate virus scan and get whatever it was off of their computer. And then this is probably the most timely and important. The vast majority of cyber attacks that we're seeing coming from phishing scams right now have one of the keywords in them. COVID-19, hand sanitizer, protecting yourself, anything that has any of these hot keywords in the email or on a link, especially on social media, please remind staff to never, ever, ever, ever open them. They are much more likely to have malicious viruses embedded in them.
All right, Ellie, what else?
Okay, so I'm trying not to inundate you, and if you'd like a copy of these slides, we're going to send it out to everybody in an email when we're done, so you don't have to be taking notes. Make sure that your employees or your insured's employees know that there are certain sites that are inappropriate for use on a work device. I know we're stuck inside and we only have one device, but if you're using it for work, please don't use it for social media, unverified news sources, or inappropriate content like porn. It's filled with viruses. All right, and here's my favorite one. Please remind employees to mute their microphone when they're on a conference call. Everybody's switching to Zoom. Everybody's loving and/or hating Zoom. And we've seen too many memes out there of people who haven't quite figured out that you're not supposed to leave your microphone on at all times. So that's a great reminder, and it always gets a good chuckle. You're going to hear a lot of keywords in this time. VPN is a big one, a virtual network. That means that it's a secure way for someone to get onto your work network when working from home. It's an extra layer of protection. We encourage you to use that. We encourage businesses to use backup systems and to provide official backup systems, preferably in the cloud, whether it be Google Documents or anything else. We highly recommend doing something like that. It looks like we got in a question from Cody. He said, "What's our thought on using Zoom? Yes, no, or no comment?" Well, we're using Zoom right now. So I have to say, I don't mind Zoom at all, truly. I as far as all of the alternatives out there, it's as good as any other. It's having its growing pains, as you can imagine, because of the dramatic increase in volume in the last month. But I don't have a problem with it at all.
And, you know, we have the paid version of Zoom, and make sure you make the updates to Zoom when they come out. It's very important to do that.
That's great.
Okay. All right, Ellie, last but not least.
And I just want to say this one more time because it's that important. Please
Right.
remind your staff to never open any emails, text links, social media links, or websites that have information regarding COVID-19 unless it's from a known source. And by that, I mean a news source that you trust. There are so many phishing attacks coming from things that have to do with COVID-19. Or as I said, there's a big one out there right now that for buying hand sanitizer. So don't do it if you don't know where it's coming from.
Great. Okay.
All right, so we're going to switch gears here and talk about why having a cyber policy is more important than ever. I'd like, you know, it's not that these are new risks. They're not. They're just more likely to occur because of the change in circumstances. So we've talked about some of the risk that businesses are facing. We've talked about the heightened risk facing employees while working from home. And now I want to understand how a cyber policy can help. But before I do that, Lisa has a quick question.
Yep.
She wants to explain a bit more about why you want to mute when on a Zoom meeting. That's more about personal brand than anything else, Lisa. We've seen a lot of people on video conference calls take their laptops into the bathroom, not realizing that they're on video, and other things that can become an ugly viral moment very, very quickly. So that's why we remind people that it is best practice to always have your line muted and your camera off unless otherwise noted or unless requested, and then make sure you're aware when your camera is on. All right, so I'm going to hand it off to Brad, who's going to talk a little bit about how the cyber policy responds to some of these risks that we've discussed.
Great. Now we're going to talk about what's covered when working from home. And you'll see here that if you have a work computer, the exposures, a company laptop, and you have an electronic device, we only can speak for the access policy, which is the policy that we work with. You have full coverage from a third and first party perspective when working from home. On a personal computer, so if you have one of your clients and they have their employees using their own computers, there's full coverage for first party if it's related to the insured's business, and there's full coverage if it relates to the insured's business from a third party perspective. And what we mean by first parties, like ransomware or bricking, anything related to first party that affects you. And we'll go into why that is important. But our policy does cover what we call BYOD, bring your own device, not bring your own booze, but it's close enough. And now you'll see in the current policy, what we have is the definition. So we define what a computer system is. And you'll read through this and you'll see that it really does not talk about a personal computer that one of your employees is using. It says operated, either owned or leased to an insured's entity, but it doesn't say personally owned by an employee. Okay, so what we've done is we've amended the definition of computer system to include bring your own device. And that wording that we are now including, it is agreed that the definition of computer system is amended to add the following. Computer system also includes any individual insured mobile portable device used in conjunction with an insured's entity. Bring your own device program. It's really, really important that you have this wording under the cyber policy.
So Brad, quick question.
Yeah.
I think it seems pretty clear that you're going to get coverage from for your laptop. So what if you've got a plugged in desktop that you're working on from home?
Yes, that's a real good question, Ellie, because it says mobile or portable device. If you take a tower, I'm one of those old school people that still has one of those computer towers. it is considered mobile because you can take it from house to house if you want to. So that still would be covered. That's a really good question. Okay.
Great.
So
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Ellie.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So here is a quote from one of our competitors on bring your own device. And actually I found this on LinkedIn that was recently published. One cost that is sometimes covered in a cyber policy is replacement costs for hardware that is completely ruined by a cyber attack or bricked in IT speak. If an employee is using a personal device for work that is then damaged by a cyber attack, the replacement cost that individual must pay to replace their own device will not be covered by most carriers. That said, if a company issued device is being used by a remote employee, there's no relevant restrictions and the bricking coverage would normally apply. So if you look at that in totality and summarizing it, as we went back to the beginning, if you're using a company-owned laptop, there would be coverage, but if you're using your own computer, there would not be first-party coverage. And this came directly from a competitor. I won't go into who it is, but you could look it up and Google it, and you can probably find out for yourself.
But that's not how the Access policy is responding, right, Brad?
That is 100% correct. We have come up with a unique endorsement that affirms coverage. So there are 0 question marks that your insured has coverage. So there's no question, well, if X happens or Y happens or Z happens, no, it is automatic. Okay? Now, Wingman's response to COVID-19. A policy clarification will be added to all policies ensuring bring your own device or employee-owned devices will be covered, first and foremost. We have also amended our installments on all accounts regardless of premium size, so you can get monthly or quarterly payments to help your insureds during these difficult times in paying their bills. And payments can now be received up to 30 days after the effective date or invoice date for installments, up from 14 days.
That's great, Brad. We've got a question real quick. The question from Lori says, will all current policies automatically have the endorsement added? Lori, the answer to that question is after 3/25, if it is a piece of business that was written on 3/25 or later, the answer to that is yes. If it's from prior to March 25th, we ask that you just send us a request to add it. The caveat is that technically we wanted this to already be covered. This is more of a clarification than an extension of coverage. So Access has asked that you affirmatively ask for the coverage. I've been sending out some emails on this, so feel free to just use our live chat to request all of your policyholders have this added, and we'll be happily do that for you.
And anybody else out there as well. We'd be happy to do it for you. Okay, great question. Thank you, Laurie. Some of the Wingman best practices. Be aware of the risks when the employees work from home. We've given you some insight. We think the exposure to a cyber event has gone up dramatically based on what Ellie explained to you. We're starting to see it now. We've seen the interest level go way up on cyber, and now people are saying, I think I better finally buy that coverage. Please offer cyber insurance to 100% of your customers. The exposure is there, you see it. It's increased dramatically with the majority of the nation working from home now. I'm sure you're educating your customer on the need for cyber insurance now and in the future. We have a few new brochures if you're interested in seeing them, as well as we're happy to talk to you more about it. Use the declination letter to protect your agency from a future E&O claim. We found that's very effective, and in fact, when you show your your client the declination letter, usually they want to buy coverage now. And that is our presentation for the day. So we can certainly take a few of your questions if you have any. And all the contacts are right here. If you have any questions, you can email us, call us, whatever you like, and we're happy to help. And that's it, Ellie. Any additional questions?
That's all I've got, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to chat them in. In the interim, I just want to say thank you guys for joining us. I hope you got some great content out of this. Candace wanted to know if we have a sample declination letter. Yes, we do, Candace. You can find it at wingmaninsurance.com/tools to download it yourself, or shoot me an email or any of us an email, and we'll happily send it to you. We have lots of great marketing materials for you to use there. I'll try to send out today to all of the attendees a recording of this webinar and the slides from this webinar. So if you have any other questions or you're looking for anything else, please feel free to reach out. If you have any colleagues that you want to hear this webinar, we're doing it again on Tuesday, same time, and let us know and we can send you the registration link.
Great. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, everybody, for participating today. If you have any questions, please let us know. We're here. We're ready to help you on any accounts you have. And stay safe and please stay healthy, and thank you for your time. We have a couple more questions, Ellie.
Let me take a peek.
Do we?
Let me see.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your
Love that.
feedback.
Wonderful.
Very nice.
Have a good one, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe and thanks very much.